everyone, it's Natalie. So I thought I'd do a quick video on some emails that I've gotten and comments on what to do if you're living with your toxic in-laws, or if your toxic in-laws happen to live with you. And those two things are very different, okay? If you're living with your toxic in-laws and they're not living with you, then what I can suggest on this specific challenge, if you want to call it, is that you need to leave. You need to go as fast as you can out of their house. And then the other challenge is that sometimes, and I'm going to go back to the other, but let me just say that sometimes when your spouse doesn't know how toxic their parents are, or maybe they do, and turn a blind eye, but you're the one getting the blunt force trauma of this situation. Sometimes your spouse allows your toxic in-laws or in-law to live with you. They allow the person that tortures you the most to come live with you because they're getting old or they're homeless. You know, if my husband ever came and asked me to let my mother-in-law live with me if she was homeless or she was old, I'd say hell no. Because it is your life that is affecting. This is your future, your current situation. This is your family you created. The last thing you want to do is suffer in silence, be ridiculed, tortured, or belittled. You don't want to live with somebody who manipulates you. You don't want to live with somebody who makes you feel bad about yourself or tries to come in between you and your husband. But here they are, living with you. So what do you do in that situation? Sometimes you have to say, you know what? They're older than me. Why am I their responsibility? I understand they're homeless. I understand they're getting old. But I'm not asking them to take care of me. They've had plenty of time to get their finances in order, make other arrangements. And if they ended up homeless, I want you to sit back and think, why did they end up homeless? And then I want you to think, well, why can't they go into assisted living? Why can't they live in a senior apartments? Why is it that their finances are my problem? So I have to live in a house that I don't feel comfortable in anymore, that I don't even want to come out of the bedroom. I don't even want to, sit in the living room and watch movies with my husband because my mother-in-law is smothering me. Look, guys, now I'm going to go back to if you're living with your in-laws, but we're just talking about this first. So if your in-laws are living with you, you have to have a serious conversation. And let me rephrase that. Your toxic or narcissistic in-law. If, excuse me, my allergies. If they are living with you and you're the one that is like, why can't my husband see what's going on here? Why is it that he won't choose me over his mother, who treats both of us bad? Why is it that he is literally saying that my mother is more important than my marriage and children? That's the real question. Well, even if your husband has experienced some of the toxicity of the in-law, you have to understand, because, and I've said this in every video of mine, because your husband or wife, it could be either one, grew up in a house with this person until they're 18 or maybe a little bit older, they have normalized their mother's behavior because they think it's normal. They think the behavior of their parent is normal because it's all they know. That's the truth. So when your spouse comes to you and like, hey, can my mom and dad live with us? And they've literally disrespected you this whole time you've been together. Or maybe they came and lived with you and turned very toxic. And maybe they weren't like that before. And maybe you didn't have a problem with them living with you. But then they come into your home and they've turned into this toxic person that just keeps you on your toes. So because your partner has grew up with a person like this, they honestly don't see anything wrong with it. So when you're going to your husband saying, hey, your mother or father, like, I can't take this anymore. They're really hurting my feelings. They're really disrespecting me. They're not letting me be a mother. They're not letting me be a wife. They interrupt me when I'm maybe even having sex or being like cuddling on the couch, you know, spending time with my partner. Or they're taking over mommy duties right in the middle of me doing something with my child. Or telling me that, no, you're not doing it the right way. This is the way you're supposed to do it. Because remember, in a toxic, narcissistic in-law's mind, only their way is the right way, not your way. And you don't know anything to them. You might have children, but shoot, your children could be 12 years old or older, and they still try to tell you how to parent your child when you've done a perfect job up until now. But because you're not doing it their way, then they have a problem. So then that causes a lot of conflict in a woman's life with their in-law, especially their mother-in-law. Because as a woman, as a mother, as a wife, you want to run your children and household a certain way. You don't need someone telling me or telling you how to run your household. Because I'll tell you one thing. If you ever listen to the way that your in-law wants you to run your house or run your children, you're thinking to yourself, why the hell would I ever do that? I never want my child to end up the way that my partner is or feels. Why would I ever do that when I don't want my house to ever be ran the way that my toxic in-law ran their house? I don't want my children to be traumatized. I want to have a loving, close, loyal relationship with my children. I'm not asking my children to idolize me. I'm asking my children to love me, to be friends with me, to treat me with respect. I'm not asking them to worship me. Because those are two very different things. So in this situation, because your partner cannot see it, or maybe they are now that they're living with you, and maybe you just are seeing it for the first time, or maybe you already knew but had no choice or a say in this matter. You have to give your partner like ultimatums, straight up. You have to say, my life right now is miserable. I'm raising my children and my family, your husband with you. You're in this family unit where you don't want someone hovering you. You don't want someone interrupting your marriage life, your children's life. You want somebody that is going to maybe come and visit once in a while. Unless they're really toxic, then I'd say no contact. But you just want your life back. And this is what you have to tell your partner. Like, I'm sorry, but I'm just not digging this anymore. This isn't working, honey. So it could be your wife too, whoever your spouse is. Like this, I'm just, no more. I can't take this anymore. She's the boundaries are being overstepped and I just don't appreciate it. I now honestly don't even like your mother or your father. And this is the thing. I was going to say something. Maybe you can set rules for this person. Hello, brain. You can't set rules for toxicity or narcissism. But, that's the thing, is that even if you set rules and boundaries in your house while they're living with you, they will always cross those thresholds. Always. And this is one of the reasons why you're like, F this. I'm not going to live, like, they're not going to live with me. I'm not living like this. Maybe you don't want to live with them, whatever the situation. I'm getting to that 1 minute. So you honestly, you got to find it in yourself to say, I'm sorry, this isn't working out. You have to find another family member. Maybe you need to go back to work. I'm sorry. And even if they're sick, I don't, and it's really hard for me to say this because I couldn't imagine if my mother was sick. I mean, I would definitely take care of her because she's not toxic or a narcissist. But when I think about having to take care of my sick in-law, I'm like, oh, hell no. Sorry. It ain't happening. They can go somewhere else. I don't care what happens. That's how I feel about my in-law. My mom, on the other hand, I'd be like, yeah, of course, come live with me and let me take care of you in your older age. But not my toxic in-laws. I couldn't do it. Honestly, if I was wealthy enough, I would maybe help pay for a assisted living place or a senior living place for them to live in if I actually had that type of heart and that money. Because this heart that I have now towards my in-laws after 21 years of them abusing me, even if I had the money, I would never, because my heart's too black now. It's too hardened from their mistreatment. And so you have to really sit and think about, like, as hard as it's going to be to kick my in-law out because I know they have nowhere to go. I know that they might be homeless. Maybe you can take them to a homeless shelter or a women's shelter or a men's shelter. But it's not your responsibility. This is what all this is about. It's not your responsibility. And you shouldn't feel bad for saying no more. Don't live your life in chaos. Because if you notice, it can put you in a bad mood. And that bad mood can roll over into your marriage and into your children's life. And the next thing you know, you're getting divorced and your children are upset with you. And maybe they don't want to live with you after the divorce. But nobody can really understand how you feel and how upset you feel about the situation that you're in or just got out of. And that's why you're upset all the time. But let me go back to, what if you live with your in-laws, which is different from your in-law living with you? So if you were put in a situation, because I'm sorry, but I can't think of a lot of situations where I would have to live with my in-laws unless because of Corona or disabilities. You don't have a job, or you live somewhere where even if you have a job, the rent is so high that you can't afford it. And sadly, that's where we are today. So if you're having to live with your in-laws by no choice of your own in some ways, while you're around this person, the best thing you can do is just kind of stay silent and stay out of their way. You don't want to befriend them, and you definitely don't want to share intimate information about your life, about your family and stuff like that with these people. You want to make sure that the interactions that you have with this person are limited. you want to make sure when you do have to talk to them that it's very cut and dry. There's no emotions in it. It's just kind of like, it's kind of like your teacher asking you a question, you just answering it in that way, right? You have no emotional connection. Like, you know, like you're not going to cry to your teacher. You're not going to, maybe you could get upset or cry, but you're not going to get upset. They're going to ask you a question. You're like, this is the answer. These are the facts. That's it. But you don't want to elaborate on those. You don't want to find yourself telling them more information than what you really have to. You want to make sure that when you do have to deal with them, it's very limited. And as hard as it might be for you right now to have to live with these people because of numerous reasons, you have to start finding a way to get out of that situation. And I know I can't, look, finances for everyone are very, very hard right now. Jobs, well, actually the job market is picking back up. But I do understand that sometimes your finances, maybe you have a few children, it's just not possible at this time. But that's when you need to start budgeting your money and saving as much as you can. That means no going out to eat, no movie theater, no taking your kids to the trampoline park, not going to the zoo, all these things, not going on vacation. Like, you have to set a limitation on your finances every single month. And then you got to say to yourself, okay, I get paid this much. You write down every single little thing that you're going to do for that month, and nothing else can come in between that where it's pinching out from what you want to put into your savings. You have to say, this is my savings, this is what we can deal with in a month. And that really might mean that your kid's not getting a toy every time you get paid. And it might mean that you have to buy like not name brand things like Great Value or whatever the store that you shop at, off brands. And that might mean off-brand diapers, off-brand wipes. It doesn't mean you're going out and buying the most expensive strollers. It doesn't mean that, like, you're just becoming very frugal with your money. So eventually you will have the finances to move out. And even if you're living somewhere where things are very high to, at cost, then if you have enough savings, you shouldn't have a problem either trying to buy a cheap house or trying to buy a cheap apartment or townhouse, condo, whatever. And because I really do recommend that if you're going to save your money, unless you have bad credit, that you go the route of buying something. That way, when you do finally put your down payment on something, that income that you do have coming in is not, like, you're not going to be financially burdened by everything you have to take care of in this month, because you have savings and you put something down on the house, which lowered your mortgage payment. Sorry, that's a little kind of off topic, but I'm just trying to help people out there that are trying to figure this out. But back to the living with the in-laws, when somebody is making snarky remarks and smirking at you and doing all these little belittling things and condescending things and being passive aggressive, you really have to ignore it. As much as it might hurt you, as much as it pisses you off, you have to find it within yourself not to respond. You don't want to give a response because, number one, it's what they want. That's why they're antagonizing you. Number two, it makes you look bad. Number three, it could put your husband or children in a bad situation. And you don't want to contribute to any other friction in this house, any more upset. So you have to be the bigger person in all of this and say, I'm going to let it go. And if that means going outside and screaming at the top of your lungs, then you do what you have to do, but don't attack. You don't want because the thing is, when you go on attack on your narcissistic or toxic in-laws, because they gossip and everything, and because you're living with them, they will definitely play the victim. They 100% will play the victim. And so, because they want that reaction and they want sympathy from other people when you attack them, even though they deserve it, you know, that as much as it makes you angry, you really, really have to find it within yourself not to react. I know that can be very difficult, and when you're dealing with somebody that wants a reaction, oh, that's what I was about to say. Sorry. What I was going to say is, when your in-law is wanting a reaction from you because they smear you, because you attack them, because they play the victim, they turn to everyone that comes to that house or is friends with them or family members, people that you know personally, and they go and victimize themselves. And they say you're the perpetrator. And so then other people in the family start to look at you different. They start to treat you different, and you notice it. But like I've said in my past videos, you have to let this toxic or narcissistic, basically the same thing, person expose themselves for who they truly are to everyone. So when you don't react and you don't give them what they want, and let's say they still go smear you, you can turn around and say, that's a lie. I never said or did any of that. Matter of fact, come talk to my spouse. And you provide evidence in any way. If that means that you have to record your conversations with this person every single time that you talk to them or interact with them, then you do it. That way, when people start whispering about you behind your back, you can say, hold on, let me show you something. Now that is the best way to get revenge on a narcissist and to actually expose them, is when you have the evidence. If you don't have the evidence and you keep blowing up on these people, you honestly look like you're the asshole. You know, you're the problem. Because your in-law, because they're smearing you and because you're living with them, they think they have control over the situation, and they can say and do whatever they want to other people or about you, and everyone is expected to believe the toxic in-law because you live with them. So they're not identifying you as a separate individual. They're identifying you as an extension of themselves, as almost like the mother hen syndrome. And the mother hen syndrome is where the mother hen cannot let her baby chicks go very far or do what they want. She is responsible no matter what the situation. She is the one that's going to take control. And because of this, she is very controlling, and you are getting in fights and bickering with her because you're your own person. You want to do and say and go where you want, but this person is saying, you better be back here right now. I'm locking you out of the house. And you're a grown adult. That's not going to fly very well with you. And it's going to upset you. And that's just one example. It could be whatever the scenario is. So, if you're having to live with her, you just kind of have to stay calm, collective, and quiet. Keep your ears open, your eyes open, your mouth shut. That's the truth. That's what you have to do. Very little interaction. You definitely do not speak about your life to these people, and especially Spouses should not be talking about each other to the toxic in-law, ever. But if you're over there fighting, hollering, whatever it is with your husband in the bedroom, number one, it is your business. But number two, you're also making it your in-laws' business. And they get stuff on you when you go and have a fight with your spouse, which you're allowed to have, but you're being messy with it. Don't be messy. If you need to have a conversation or you need to fight, you go in the car or you walk down to the park and you talk about it. But when you're sitting here, and I'm not even saying like you're shouting or anything, you're just talking kind of upsetly. I can guarantee you that in-law is in the next room with the cup and on her ear listening. That's the truth. So don't be messy, and there won't be a mess to clean up. Okay? So, in conclusion, rather you're living with your narcissist or your narcissist is living with you, set boundaries, and if they cross those, there will be consequences, and maybe you have written it on a piece of paper, maybe even have a digital footprint where you have texted it to your in-law and says, I'm sorry, here's my boundaries, and if you don't like it, I'm too bad. And then you want to make sure that you don't speak more than you're spoken to in a way, and I don't mean that in an authoritarian way, that you're not going and having heart-to-hearts with this toxic in-law, and you're not speaking about this and that and telling them your whole life. Basically, speak when you're asked a question and give a dry answer. That's it. You have to play this game very smartly and get your finances in order. If you're living with your in-laws, maybe you're living with them because they're old. See, that's the thing. There's many scenarios here of why you're living with them or why your in-laws, or I was going to say why your in-laws live with you, but no, there's only a few scenarios for that. But there's a lot of scenarios of why you live with your in-laws. You might be living with them to take care of them. But if you're in that situation where that is the situation, that you're living with your in-laws to take care of them, you might want to look into nursing homes. If you're that miserable. I mean, you can't tell yourself that, oh, I have to take care of this person because they're my in-law or they're my mom and dad. When they treat you the way they do and your life is miserable, you can't live with like that because your life is being wasted with anger and resentment. You have to find it within yourself and your heart to put your foot down and say, I'm sorry, but living with my in-laws or my in-laws living with me, it's not working. I gotta cut the cord. Because their whole motive here, the toxicity that's going on in these households, their whole motive is to split you up, to ruin your marriage, to make your children dislike you, to get a reaction out of you so you look like the bad guy. That's their whole motive. They don't like you. They don't want you in their family. They are pushing you out of their family. This is what it's all about. And don't get fooled because once in a while they are nice to you. They don't like you. They definitely don't love you. They might even say it though. But they don't. Wisen up. Listen to your consciousness. Listen to the room's energy, the person's energy. You have to really pay attention in your surroundings. And you have to make sure that you are constantly protecting your marriage and your children, your family. Make sure you are always protecting them. Because the moment they see you slip up, they will hold it against you and swoop down in there and grab up your whole family without you. All right, guys. Peace, love, harmony. Sorry it's a little long. All right, bye.